Once upon a time, creatures, it's not like humans are just considered legends, a fictional existence. But that's just a story of the past. Everything started with a video when these creatures decided to appear publicly. Humans call them Genjin, which means legendary personage. The current era is considered the era of diversity. Genjin gradually became recognized and became a part of human society, and schools were no exception. Keiki Private High School is said to have the most Genjin. Attending this school is a human, Yutaka Shinso, who currently looks sleepy. Every day it takes him about 2 hours to get to school, but he didn't mind as long as he could avoid old friends. It wasn't because anything serious happened. In fact, he used to really enjoy hanging out with them. However, he is always too attentive to other people's eyes, and having to read the atmosphere every time he talks makes him gradually unsure of himself. He chose this school in the hope of making friends because there are many Genjin here, and they must be facing the same difficulties as him. Like the girl standing next to her currently bending the locker door. She is Tsumiki Ogami, his classmate, and a Genjin of the werewolf race. The nature and constitution of werewolves is that they can transform into wolves or possess supernatural powers on full moon nights. It must have been even more difficult for her to live in human society. He asked why she bent the closet door so nervously, but she replied that it wasn't out of anger or anything. She was just trying to break the closet door so she could fit her favorite pair of shoes inside without damaging them. However, Yutaka reminded her that she was damaging school property. Immediately, she used her strength to repair the door. Yutaka suggested that she should put her shoes on top of the closet so she wouldn't have to bend the door every day. She liked that idea and was about to pat his head to thank him, but Yutaka jumped back in surprise. She stops and explains that she can control her powers. Yukata said that he was quite sensitive to other people's gazes, and what just happened wasn't because he was afraid of her or anything. He really wanted to prove it. Therefore, Tsumiki lightly patted his hand. She doesn't mind at all because she understands that everyone is different. They introduced themselves, then Tsumiki returned to the classroom. This was Yutaka's first time talking to a Genjin, and she's so friendly even though she's a werewolf. Tsumiki is extremely popular. The whole class was attracted to her and everyone wanted to talk. But Yutaka is not very interested in that fame. Just the thought of facing constant curious gazes was enough to make his stomach ache. The conversation now turned to her cute shoes. Because there are no school shoe sizes that fit her big feet. Tsumiki proudly shows off her big toes even though they tear her socks. The whole class became silent, but Yutaka burst out laughing. Tsumiki wasn't angry at all. She laughed along with him. She even showed him the belt she used to keep her tail neat. The school issued separate skirts for Beastkin students, but she still preferred to wear regular skirts. Then she offered to let Yutaka try on the belt because he seemed interested. Yutaka immediately strongly refused, but still could not escape everyone's scrutiny. Even though she pays great attention to fashion, Tsumiki still comfortably shows off her toes. She doesn't seem too bothered about her unique nature and physique. About Saiko no Uem, one day a question was asked, will Tsumiki turn into a wolf on the night of the full moon? The answer is no, because it depends on the individual. However, Yutaka wondered whether such questions were really appropriate. When a classmate asked her if she ate human flesh, Tsumiki replied that werewolves these days no longer eat human flesh, but she still eats meat because she is a carnivore. Modem. Yutaka understood that if she let her speak like that, it would be easy for others to misunderstand. So he quickly added that if she really was a cannibal, she would already be in jail. The girls immediately understood when they heard that. And even though Tsumiki was embarrassed, she was touched. A classmate, while looking for information about werewolves, held up a phone with a picture of a full moon to show Tsumiki, making her howl so cutely that the boys wanted to record it. Rumors that Tsumiki would howl adorably at the sight of a full moon quickly spread to other classes, causing her popularity to skyrocket tenfold. Boys from other classes came to ask for her contact number. There is even Moritaka Senga, a vampire from another class who is overconfident when he comes to ask for Tsumiki's number. But she calls him an obstacle and tells him to get out of her way. If you thought she was angry, you were wrong, because she was actually just on her way to buy lunch and Senga got in her way. Meanwhile, Yutaka reads the messages in the old middle school class group where a class reunion is being planned, and everyone assumes that Yutaka will not participate this time either. Even though he was affected by it, he still pretended not to care. At that moment, Tsumiki appeared covered in mud. The reason is that during lunch, the sandwich she ate was so delicious that she buried it in the ground to save it for later. After school, she went digging again, but was too immersed in digging. She also warned Yutaka that he should also be careful because he might fall into a similar situation. But Yutaka was certain that he would never fall for that type of thing. Tsumiki didn't mind having to go home covered in mud, even when Yutaka offered to lend her his sports jacket. That made Yutaka wonder how he could become like her. He always pays attention to the eyes of the people around him and how they evaluate him. Like, yeah, man, being allowed to study at such a faraway school is an opportunity for him to start over and live true to himself. But the problem is that he still doesn't know what his true self is. Therefore, the fact that Tsumiki was able to accept himself made him admire. Tsumiki thought that it was because she was a Genjin that it was so easy, but being a human was difficult. She offered to help him find out his true feelings, but Yutaka immediately refused, saying he could manage on his own. However, Tsumiki refused to give up because she truly appreciated the people around her, and Yutaka was now an important person to her. She even realized that the reason he chose a faraway school was because he didn't want to meet some people from the past and told him that directly. And once again, she suggested that even though they were two different species and might not completely understand each other, he should give her a chance to find her true feelings with him. She held out her hand, making Yutaka think it was a handshake. But then she suddenly picked him up and walked towards the window, saying they should start now and go home together. Why the window and not the door, you ask? It's because they will jump through the window. Yutaka, of course, objected, but Tsumiki still jumped down. The experience left him dizzy and nauseous, but also gave him an unprecedented sense of freedom. He used to think the classroom was huge, yet when they leave it, it becomes small again. That experience is something he will remember forever. Tsumiki gave him a gentle sniff. It's not because he smells bad, but it's a form of greeting in the Genjin world, meaning, let's get along. After she left, Yutaka received a notification from his old class group again. While wondering whether to attend the class reunion or not, he received his first text message from Tsumiki. He remembered the moments he had just spent with her, and felt something that he couldn't even name. The next day, Tsumiki found a letter next to her shoes. A thank you letter from Yutaka, along with a small gift placed in her locker. She happily ran towards the classroom, said that she still hadn't heard the end of his story, and then invited Yutaka to come over to her house. Masada, the whole class turned to look at them when they heard that invitation. Right after that, the boys pulled Yutaka away. Even though he tried to explain that it wasn't what they thought, that Tsumiki was just a friend, they still refused to listen. Yes, Tsumiki then offered to invite Yutaka to her house on Saturday, but Yutaka replied that he needed to check his schedule first. The real reason behind that vague answer was because he felt pressure from the suspicious eyes of his male friends, who were attentively eavesdropping on the conversation. Even though he politely refused, Yutaka was still dragged away by the boys for questioning. They said they were just curious, as Tsumiki's fans. Yutaka insists that they are just friends, but the friends don't believe it, because Tsumiki has never invited any other friends home, before Yutaka also couldn't bring himself to tell the truth that she invited him to her house just to help him find his true feelings. Even after returning to class, Yutaka kept thinking about whether or not he should go to her house. Later that day, Yutaka decided to tell Tsumiki that he wouldn't be able to come. She seemed serious when she said that the decision is up to you. If you don't want to come, then that's fine. That made Yutaka realize that he was once again influenced by other people's reactions, so he quickly changed his mind and said he would come. Tsumiki happily left, not forgetting to remind him not to go back on his word. Yutaka can be honest with his feelings for the first time, and it's best not to look back. The boys now look like wandering ghosts. After school, Tsumiki and her friends went to the arcade. The friends asked if the boy invited to the house was her boyfriend. Tsumiki just replied that they were just friends. Her friend reminded her to be careful even if it was her friend. But Tsumiki wasn't worried at all, because she knew that there was no way Yutaka could resist her power. Saturday comes, Yutaka is anxiously waiting for Tsumiki, worried about the visit. When Tsumiki appeared in casual clothes, Yutaka silently apologized to her fans because he was the one who saw her in such a state. Tsumiki led him to a mountain and said that was where werewolves lived. Lied us, right? To get to her house, they will have to climb a mountain. Yutaka tiredly climbed the mountain with the help of a stick, while Tsumiki seemed unaffected. She was still covered in mud, but that was unavoidable when climbing mountains. Tsumiki justifies that she is normally more careful with her uniform. But Yutaka immediately reminded her that just the day before, she was covered in mud just because of a sandwich. Tsumiki simply cannot resist the lure of food. Finally, they came before a large rock. Tsumiki lightly tapped the rock, then it began to move, revealing a passage. The person pushing the rock was none other than a large werewolf, but he didn't say a word. Inside the passage is an entire underground town. Kia. Werewolves used to dig burrows to protect themselves, and this place seems to still retain that habit. After Genjin were recognized in society, they gradually came out to the outside world. But until now, there are still many Genjin children who like to live in hiding like that. Tsumiki led Yutaka to his home, a small house. With everything haphazardly displayed, it exudes a very cozy feeling. Hi? Yutaka sat down on the ground watching Tsumiki happily show off the socks he gave her. Instead of putting them on her feet, she used them as decorations because she was afraid that if she went on them, she would tear that precious gift. A few children rushed into Tsumiki's room and asked about Yutaka. Looks like Tsumiki has children. The second sister also ran after the two younger children, but it seemed it was too late. Tsumiki asked permission to leave, looking unhappy. Tsumiki and her third brother compete in lifting rocks and climbing walls. The younger brother asked Yutaka if he wanted to climb the wall with him, but Yutaka refused because his legs had reached their limit. However, the second sister teased that this was not a job for humans, causing Yutaka to suddenly decide to climb the wall. Wherever you are, you follow suit. Yutaka thought, after all the exercise. Yutaka was tired. The second sister approached him and asked if Tsumiki was okay living in the outside world. Yutaka seriously replied that Tsumiki was doing better than humans. It turns out that Tsumiki's younger sister was very worried about her because she had a more human-like personality, so everyone in the village relied on her. That's why their parents decided to let Tsumiki go out, hoping that if she lives well, other children will also have more courage to step out into the outside world. She seemed to be doing okay on the outside, but no one knew for sure if she really was okay. Yutaka remembered what Tsumiki once said, that she felt comfortable with people who were comfortable with her, which also meant that there were still people who had problems with her. Even so, she is still willing to step out into the outside world for others. Meanwhile, Yutaka was engrossed in digging and realized how addictive it was. Tsumiki tells him that he can open up to her, and she will help him figure out his feelings. Yutaka felt guilty because she had to shoulder so much on her own, and he also made her worry more about herself. He began to speak his thoughts at length, but Tsumiki simply replied that she was not burdened with anything. Albeit, she lives out in the world not for others, but to show superiority over her younger sisters. She thought that if the children wanted to learn about the outside world, she would be the one who could teach them, so they would rely on her. Tsumiki also added that if there was something she didn't like, she would simply leave the place so Yutaka didn't need to worry or feel insecure too much. When they were together, Tsumiki asked Yutaka how he was feeling right now, but Yutaka didn't answer, as if frozen. A moment later, he suddenly approached her and sniffed her, remembering that she had said that was a way of greeting to show her desire to make friends in the Genjin world. Tsumiki was extremely surprised, but luckily Yutaka quickly regained his composure and stepped back, saying that he hoped the two could keep this good relationship. Tsumiki immediately reminded her that people should keep to human greetings because the action just now really surprised her. Hearing that, Yutaka turned pale and frantically apologized, but Tsumiki didn't pay attention, and even laughed because she had told him the same thing. It was already quite late, so Tsumiki decided to send Yutaka home. Her sisters also said goodbye to him with strange looks. Yutaka, who was too involved in customs, felt extremely guilty until Monday. A normal day, but one can't help but look forward to something. At lunchtime, this was Yutaka's first time going to the school cafeteria. The cafeteria was packed with people as it served a variety of food for both humans and Genjin, and even had separate areas for students to eat in privacy. Tsumiki was also in the cafeteria and happened to see Yutaka. She asked him where he usually ate because she never saw him eating in class. Yutaka told Tsumiki that he usually eats lunch in a private place, and Tsumiki seemed very eager to check it out. She also suggested that he buy a fried meat sandwich, which is only sold on Fridays. When she mentioned sandwiches, Yutaka noticed her tail wagging back and forth excitedly. But then he also reminded that today is only Wednesday. Immediately, he saw her tail drooping along with her mood dropping. Feeling guilty, he promised to try it next time. On the way to the secret place to eat, they come across Sengai, the vampire, whose phone number Tsumiki once refused. He was with a girl and intended to suck her blood, but the girl was interested in Sengai and wanted to talk first. The excitement of just thinking about his blood made the girl angry. She slapped him in the face and left in tears. Sengai doesn't care at all. He just casually pulled out his phone to find a replacement. He was extremely confident and did not hesitate even the second time we met, praising his own beauty. Yutaka was somewhat impressed with that confidence, but Tsumiki was unaffected and just calmly moved forward. Yutaka wanted to stop her, but Tsumiki says that blood is food to Senga and sometimes variety is good. While glancing through Senga's phone, Yutaka noticed that the vampire wrote the blood type right in front of the name of each contact in the phone book. Senga remembered that Tsumiki was the person who refused to give him his phone number. She apologized, saying that because she was hungry that day, she was irritable and behaved rudely. Still, he said he was hurt and she could make up for it by giving him blood. He believes that as a Genjin, Tsumiki should understand the pain of being hungry. Yutaka thought that even if he was hungry, Senga should not make such a request. But Tsumiki didn't mind because she believed that anyone who is hungry should eat when they have the chance. Senga started drinking her blood, causing Yutaka to turn away. He understood that humans also had to eat, and perhaps Genjins had more inconvenience when it came to choosing food. Hi. Those feelings as a human he couldn't completely understand. Tsumiki noticed him absent-mindedly thinking and called his name. Her face was now red, causing Yutaka to panic when he saw it, and hastily separated the two. Yutaka then realized what he had just done, and quickly apologized, even bowing down in apology. Senga said that Yutaka should admit that he was jealous because he didn't like what he just witnessed. Yutaka turned pale, quickly denied it, and thought it was ridiculous just because they were close to each other. He would behave like that. Senga finds Yutaka annoying because he thinks that a normal person doesn't need to go through so many confusing emotions. At that moment, another girl arrived, so Senga left with her. Now it's time for lunch. Yutaka told himself that he shouldn't think too much, and that Tsumiki was only being nice to him because she was kind. He asked her if her neck was okay, and Tsumiki replied that werewolves have excellent healing abilities. Then showed him my neck. There were absolutely no signs of being bitten. However, Yutaka covered his face for another reason. Now he had begun to pay attention to Tsumiki's skin, even though he didn't want to. That moment became an unforgettable memory. Now is the time for the picnic to begin. Tsumiki, who is an active person, seemed extremely excited about this trip, but Yutaka was not interested at all. He knew that field trips were usually meant to strengthen friendships, but to him it felt like it was forced, too rushed. Tsumiki says that if they are placed in the same group on the picnic, then they should enjoy themselves and eat delicious food. Yutaka agreed, but still had negative thoughts that maybe they wouldn't be in the same group. Tsumiki immediately showed him an advertisement for a dish she wanted to try on the trip. On the day of the picnic, luckily, they were actually placed in the same group. Besides them, Senga was also in the group, which caused them to attract unnecessary attention from others. The remaining two members are Sugimi, a human, and Kitu, an invisible person. No one in the group had a specific idea of where to go, so Tsumiki took charge of planning the day. Senga wanted some free time after lunch, so Tsumiki arranged her schedule to have time to rest and then regroup. When Tsumiki is in the group, everyone feels secure, especially when in an amusement park. They started with thrilling rides, and Tsumiki behaved extremely friendly with the park staff. Senga spoke up again that there was no need to be so nice because those people were paid to be friendly. This statement made the atmosphere strange. Senga went on to say that everyone weighs the pros and cons in relationships, even when communicating with others. For example, he only goes with groups to avoid attention from girls. Kitu reminds Senga to be careful, so he doesn't attract more attention than the mascots in the park. However, Senga is very confident that he will not lose to a mascot that is just a human in disguise. At that moment, an unexpected truth shocked Tsumiki. She had always believed that mascots were real creatures. At free time, Yutaka and Tsumiki still went together because Tsumiki wanted to try the food in the advertisement she saw. She even knew clearly the way to the store because she had prepared carefully in advance. Although this was her first time going to an amusement park, she had started to get acquainted with the outside world since she was young. However, asking permission to go out is never easy. Because she was so excited about this trip, she made detailed plans on paper. Even decided that he would come back here with his sister in the future. Yutaka at first thought Tsumiki had been to the park before based on the confident way she acted. Yutaka was sure that her friends had invited her here before, but it turned out that she had never been allowed to come to this park. It's impossible to do everything on the planning list, but Yutaka still wants her to try. Tsumiki tried the dish she was looking forward to, but the taste was terrible. She even said it directly in front of the store owner and other customers. Yutaka quickly pulled her away to save the situation while she kept complaining about the bad food. Yutaka reads through her plan and says they will try to participate in as many games as possible. Tsumiki was touched and agreed. When they returned to meet the group, they were both extremely excited. They planned to play one last game with the group and then buy souvenirs. However, Senga was not present. Tsumiki really wants to play this game with the group because it will take pictures of that moment. Yutaka took out his phone to call him, but Tsumiki discovered Senga standing in the crowd. What shocked the group was that Senya was crying tears in her eyes. He said he was going home. Something very strange happened to Senga, who was always calm and confident. Let's wait and see what the reason behind those tears is. Yutaka decided to make today fun since it was Sumiki's first time going to an amusement park. While they were enjoying themselves, Senga ran up crying and said he was going home. The word "I'm going home" in Japanese also rhymes with the word frog. So Tsumiki deliberately changed the subject by saying that Senga was looking for a frog and started looking around. Yutaka was very surprised because he thought that Senga was with friends, so he asked Senga why he wanted to go home. But Senga cried even louder, making it inconvenient for Yutaka to ask further. He was really shocked because Senga was usually very confident and accepted himself as a vampire, but today he was completely devastated. Yutaka thought that maybe it was better to let Senga have his own space because there are times when people don't want to say anything. However, they needed to take a photo together, so Yutaka decided to carefully ask about the reason. And if Senga could share, because it would be sad if the picnic ended like this. Senga later said that the person he trusted and thought was his friend was only using him. His friend tricked him, luring him into taking a walk around the park. Senga told Yutaka all the depressed thoughts in his heart, making Yutaka secretly think why he had become so negative. Where was that person who was always bright and confident? Senga said that he had encountered many similar situations, but in this school, he hoped that he could finally have a real friend. Due to his vampire nature, girls are often attracted to him, while boys are jealous, making it difficult for him to always be taken advantage of and find someone he can trust. Yutaka thought that even though Senga always seemed to be surrounded by people, he was actually always very lonely. Just because Senga accepts himself doesn't mean he doesn't have worries. Yutaka felt happy that Senga proactively opened up and shared everything with him, so he started thinking about what he could do to help him now. But Tsumiki suddenly asked what about them. Hadn't everyone been playing around the park all day? So why doesn't Senga consider them friends? But Senga refused, thinking that how could he trust them? They were just coincidentally placed in the same group. Hearing that Tsumiki couldn't help but tell him straight to his face that he was such a troublesome person, Yutaka tries to handle the situation, saying that it's complicated and that Senga probably has his own circumstances, but Tsumiki thinks this is a great opportunity to make friends. He's always suspicious of everyone, so he can't make friends with anyone, and it's strange to think that others will betray him. She also mentioned that she once let him suck his blood, so why can't they still consider each other friends? Senga argued that she gave him blood because she was a girl and had a crush on him. Hearing that Tsumiki got angry, grabbed him by the collar, asking him to quickly make her fall in love with his nature, because he had decided on the relationship between the two without thinking at all, which really disgusted her. Yutaka tried to stop her, saying that Senga had just fallen in love, but Tsumiki also stopped when she saw Senga looking at her with admiring eyes. Tsumiki continues to ask Senga to quickly make her fall in love with him, and Senga replies that he is already doing it. His naturally seductive scent always worked, but strangely she still hadn't fallen for him yet. Even when he had sucked her blood and even when they were standing this close to each other, she was still not moved. Yes, Senga also said that maybe deep down inside she already loved him without realizing it, but Tsumiki immediately denied it. When she heard Tsumiki refuse, Senga felt extremely happy. She even called him homely. That made him even happier because no one had ever spoken to him directly like that. People always only had good words, so hearing contradictory words like this made him feel new. The group boarded the last roller coaster Senga followed, and the three of them took a photo together. Senga looked at herself in the photo and admired how photogenic she was and asked Tsumiki if she felt moved. She asked him back if he was still worried about that. She then wondered why Senga got on the same bus as them when he wasn't in the same class, but Senga replied that he asked to change seats. Having snacks with friends on the bus has always been his dream, so this time he tried to make it come true. He shared the snacks, even giving Yutaka some, which shocked Yutaka. Senga said that Yutaka is really heartless when it comes to love, and said that they could become friends. Yutaka felt that statement was rude and was about to speak up, but at that moment someone called Senga away. Tsumiki tells Yutaka to tell Senga that he doesn't like what he just said, but Yutaka just says it's okay. Yutaka asks Tsumiki if she plans to make friends or not, because he thought that if she found Senga annoying, she would definitely leave him alone. Her cold attitude towards Senga is actually for his own good. But at that moment, Senga interrupted the conversation. So Yutaka stopped thinking that maybe he was thinking too much. However, Tsumiki lightly bumped her shoulder into Yutaka's and signaled him to be quiet, seeing her reflection in the mirror. Yutaka secretly thought she was cool. While sitting in class, Yutaka felt confused because he saw Tsumiki with a serious expression, but her tail was swaying excitedly, showing that she was happy and excited. Oh. She mumbled about sports, and Yutaka finally realized that she was thinking about her upcoming gym class. Keiki High School has many large sports fields, and physical education classes are often held together. So many Genjin will gather together. Human students can choose to participate, observe, or study independently. But according to Yutaka, no one can feel comfortable being stared at by others. So he began to consider finding a discreet location to observe, but was worried that some people might hate being watched like that. While still wondering, he decided to ask Tsumiki, but accidentally bumped into a girl walking by. Both quickly apologized to each other. Hi, and then he realized that the girl was Sugimi, who had been with the group on the field trip. At that moment, Senga also came from behind and helped her pick up the paper she had just dropped. As soon as Sugimi saw that, she immediately wanted to disappear from this world. Turns out she's a Genjin fan. Yutaka tried to comfort her by saying that there are many people who also love Genjin, so she doesn't need to worry. However, Senga cleverly reminded that Yutaka herself was no different from her Aibin. In a panic, two people who loved Genjin but were afraid of bothering others began babbling continuously, making Senga angry. He said that if their intentions were good, then it was okay, which touched the two of them. But then Senga's dark side comes out when he says that it's those good intentions that are disgusting. Like Gosna, meanwhile Tsumiki was playing baseball and holding the bat about to hit the ball. The Genjin who threw the ball was a creature shaped like an octopus. Tsumiki received the ball and prepared to score a home run. But a bird like Genjin in the outfield caught the ball in midair. The group of 3 people from the previous field trip were also standing outside watching the match. Yutaka and Sugimi realized that the Genjins really don't care about being stared at by others. The 3 also noticed that not only was Tsumiki playing her best on the field, but she was also extremely energetic. Yutaka commented that she looked really happy. Senga suggested that he should join the match, but Yutaka thinks that the people who should participate are capable and serious people. Tsumiki noticed them and headed this way. She actually came to ask for advice because the Genjin team over there had a very strong defense. She asked Sugimi for advice, but because she admired Genjin so much, Sugimi began to panic. However, Sugimi quickly regained his composure and gave his notes about the opposing team. Yutaka and Sugimi worked together to help Tsumiki develop a strategy. When it was her turn to compete, Tsumiki happily hugged the 2 people because she was confident that she would win. Yutaka reminds her that she hasn't won yet, but she was very confident in herself and told him to look at her closely. So Sugimi and Yutaka came up with a plan for Tsumiki, who was going all out in the basketball game. But after she started competing, they began to worry about their plans again. Sugimi claimed to be just someone who collected data about Genjin as a hobby, and Yutaka was worried because he had only watched a few matches and now he was intervening. What if Tsumiki lost because of wrong information? Senga tries to calm their worries by saying that this is just gym class, they are thinking too much. Furthermore, Tsumiki told them to trust and observe her. Then a few girls recognized Senga and surrounded him, causing the group to move closer to the field to watch Tsumiki's match, while Senga covered his face with his shirt to avoid being noticed. An octopus Genjin girl is planning against Tsumiki. If Tsumiki wins this match, it will be a spectacular comeback, but she doesn't intend to let that happen. She wanted to confuse Tsumiki so that if Tsumiki got agitated, she wouldn't be able to control her power and go all out. Tsumiki remembered the plan she discussed with Yutaka and Sugimi, in which Yutaka asked her that if she threw the ball this time, there would be no problem. However, Yutaka continued speaking, showing a diagram of the courtyard that there was a large area of the outer courtyard assigned to the bird girl. If Tsumiki throws the ball, the opponent will trust the bird girl to catch the ball. Sugimi added the opinion that that is why the outfield players are moving forward. Tsumiki, a wolf, is very strong, and they hope the ball will fly far. Yutaka also agreed they would probably prefer that to her hitting the ball, strangely resulting in the ball rolling on the ground. Catching the rolling ball will be very difficult when you have to jump or rush forward. The scene changes to the present where the octopus girl throws the ball, and Tsumiki responded with a vertical swing, which surprised his opponent. The others couldn't catch the ball in time. Tsumiki started running from the starting point, and Sugimi and Yutaka happily cheered for her. Tsumiki is also very fast when running, but when she is running in the middle of the road, the bird girl catches the ball and throws it at high speed, saying she won't let Tsumiki score. Tsumiki recalls another plan of Yutaka's. He already knew what would happen next if anything unexpected happened. She could use the time to manage it. He comes up with a plan thinking that if it's Tsumiki, everything will be fine. She ran, and when she was about to approach the house, she slid to the ground and placed her hand on that spot. But at that moment, the catcher caught the ball and there was confusion as to whether it was out or safe. Sand and dust flew blindly and no one could see. When the dust settled, everyone saw Tsumiki's fingernails touching the house and she was very excited. Her supporters were happy and she gave all the credit to Sugimi and Yutaka. She waved and asked Yutaka if he saw it. He agreed and waved back, smiling seductively. She invited all her friends together to celebrate the victory. After the match, they walked back to the school building with Tsumiki walking in front. And the rest following. Sugimi appreciates Tsumiki because she's really cool. Out of all the Genjin, she definitely has the highest physical abilities. Even the strong wind couldn't sway her. Tsumiki turns around and tells Sugimi to remember to note that Tsumiki scored a home run for the Genjin team, and she also hit home. When Tsumiki was about to touch her face, Yutaka stopped her hand. He thought she was about to scratch herself. He assumed that because of her high self-healing ability, she might have developed 2 fingernails that were stuck in the house. She has long nails. She immediately hid her hands behind her back and told him not to look because it made her feel embarrassed. She wondered if there were any nail clippers in the infirmary. Sugimi wanted to check there with her. Senga and Yutaka are both confused about the complicated standards that she doesn't care about, like her messy hair and sandy body. This is the first time freshmen have had a cooking class. Tsumiki seems quite upset, and Yutaka asks if she's okay. She replied that it was just a little itchy because her fur fell out more in the summer, so she had to wear a hat properly. Octopus Girl comes and asks Yutaka if he can handle an area with a lot of water because she is afraid of electricity. He went there and thought that depending on the nature and constitution of each Genjin, there were still many inconveniences. Tsumiki arrives, catching his attention by letting him see her glove with the fingers torn. He asked her if she tore them herself, and she proudly replied that this glove was designed to accommodate sharp nails, and she had torn them, meaning she was stronger than them. Yutaka was surprised that she was competing with gloves on. The cooking lesson begins. She held the egg in her hand and squeezed it gently to break the eggshell. Then pour into bowl. Yutaka advised her that it might be better if you crack the eggs on the table first. She agreed and cracked eggs on the table. Then he told her to handle the mixing part, and she started mixing the ingredients at a very fast speed. He instructed her to mix, and when it became lumpy, he told her to add more flour. He told her to make cookies, and to do that he asked her to roll the dough. She followed suit and started to shape it, but the cake was flattened. She was exhausted and sat down on the ground. Yutaka had no choice but to do it for him, telling him to let him handle the rest. She did not expect that cooking would require such sophistication. Before that, she boasted to her younger siblings that she would bring home sweets. Yutaka encouraged her to bring the cake home because they both made it together. But Tsumiki had self-esteem. She wanted to do something on her own. Otherwise, she wouldn't be worthy of being an older sister. That night she came home, and even though she tried to lie about bringing the cake home, her siblings still recognized it. The next morning, she carried a bag of ingredients and went to school. In class, Yutaka noticed that she was carrying a bag and not paying attention to the lecture because she was reading something. The teacher called her name to ask questions. But when she awkwardly prepared to apologize, Yutaka quickly answered instead, and even secretly showed her the page of the book they were studying. He offered to help her by asking her to let him know if she needed his support. In the kitchen, she baked another batch of cookies. This time there were a few that didn't burn. Seeing the cake cooked evenly, she was very happy. Side note, when she took out the cake tray, her finger was burned, but she just hoped the wound would heal quickly. She packed the cake into a bag, thinking that this was enough to bring home to the children. On the way home, she saw Yutaka still in class and asked if he was being punished. Yutaka replied that he was on duty and had a mountain of work assigned by his teacher. She went into class, sat down, and commented that he really worked hard. He asked her if she could make cookies. She happily nodded and showed him the results, proudly saying that they looked good. But Yutaka quickly realized that her hand was burned and immediately took out a band-aid to bandage her. She said the burn would heal quickly, But he gently replied that the burn would heal, but her efforts would not disappear. He hesitated and then added that using a bandage might not be the best treatment for the burn, but she told him to go ahead because she had never used tape before. She sat in a chair next to his table, placing her hand on the table so he could easily bandage it. Yutaka gently peeled off the bandage and applied it to her burn. To thank her, she gave him an extra cookie she had made. She blushed and left the classroom after handing out the cookies, while Yutaka thought to herself that she had put a lot of effort into making them. When she got home, her siblings asked her if she was in a good mood today and had anything funny happened, but she just shook her head to deny it. The next morning, Sumiki arrived at school almost on time and felt very excited because she was about to achieve the perfect attendance title she was aiming for. On the way to class, she accidentally saw a crow sitting on the school roof. Looking closer, she discovered that the crow had stolen Mirei's special glasses. This is a serious problem because Mirei is a Medusa. She has snake hair and eyes that can turn anyone into stone if looked at directly. Mirei is inherently a kind person. She warned Sumiki to stay away from her, but Sumiki still tries to get her glasses back and fails. Therefore, the class activity that day was changed to the mission rescuing Mirei's glasses. Mirei repeatedly apologized for causing trouble and thanked the class for their cooperation. She even designed a detailed plan herself to get her glasses back. Meanwhile, Sumiki is extremely determined to catch the crow that flew out of her hand, Iya. Mirei became the commander of the search operation. Because crows love to collect shiny objects, she gave everyone small shovels and asked them to work in groups of 2. Even without glasses, she still organized her work meticulously, even giving Sumiki gloves to protect her hands from getting rough, making Yutaka wonder if Mirei was Sumiki's mother or not. While Mirei and Yutaka were bending down to search, Mirei accidentally moved her hand, and suddenly Yutaka reached out to help her. But this action startled Mirei, causing the snakes on her head to become ferocious. Yutaka quickly apologized, and Mirei explained that the snakes would be aggressive whenever she was surprised, hoping for his understanding. Understanding her nature, Yutaka gently apologized again. Meanwhile, Tsumiki is also extremely determined to find the crow, because she has a personal grudge against it since the last time it stole her burgers. Together, Tsumiki and Yutaka tried their best to find the glasses when Senga appeared. They told him the situation. Tsumiki immediately asked him for help, but the whole class opposed Senga's help and pulled Tsumiki towards them as if trying to protect her from a wolf, even though Tsumiki herself was a wolf. It was almost time for the next class, so Mirei reminded everyone to go back. But the whole class said they would continue searching until the last minute, because the situation was very urgent. Mirei was very touched to see everyone trying for her, and wanted to see that effort. She was also afraid that if she couldn't find her glasses, she might never be able to see her friends' faces again. At that moment, Sumiki discovered the crow and immediately chased after it. She got her glasses back but slipped and fell from the tree. However, thanks to a werewolf's reflexes and thanks to Yutaka below, she landed safely, even though Tsumiki was able to land safely on her own. Yutaka still rushed to save her. The glasses were returned to their owner. Mirei put them back on. Although embarrassed, she sincerely thanked everyone for their help. After that, Tsumiki called Yutaka over and patted his head as a compliment for his recent rescue. Yutaka laughed and said that he actually missed that block completely. Even though it was raining today, it was still a wonderful day for Mirei Medusa, because the moderately humid air made her feel comfortable, and she also enjoyed the sound of falling rain. However, the snakes on her head don't like being wet, so she needs to take care of them carefully. Mirei arrived at the school gate and received a text message informing her that school was closed today due to the weather. Hasayo, she had already gone to school, so she decided to go inside, but she wasn't the only one going to school. Tsumiki was also at school, but she was soaked and dirty. She is the type of person who wears a raincoat and loves playing in the rain. Her condition shows that she had a good time playing in the rain. The reason she stays in school is because she doesn't often look at her phone. She was completely wet, so Mirei tried to dry her with a towel. Tsumiki continued to take off her clothes to dry them, but Mirei stopped and told her not to do that because they were still in the hallway. Yutaka also went to school, but Mirei ordered him to stop immediately. He was so surprised that his mind and body froze, not knowing how long he had to stop. At the women's changing room, Sumiki is drying her clothes. Mirei reminds her to be more restrained and think carefully before acting. The reason she said that is because she thinks that humans and Genjin have 2 big differences in physicality and values. So they shouldn't act so freely even though they can currently get along with humans. Tsumiki listened to her well and then was silent for a while and left. Yutaka finds Mirei in the classroom, licking her and other snake-like tongues. When she recognized Yutaka, she apologized for showing off like that. Utica apologizes for startling her. Mirai asked about Sumiki and told him about the previous lesson. She felt embarrassed for being so frank and thought Sumiki was angry with her. Yutaka says that Sumiki is very cool and kind, and he was sure that Sumiki had another reason for leaving like that. So both of them decided to follow the water trail to find her. Finally, they found Sumiki in the sewing room, and she was as usual not angry. Hi. She even apologized for leaving like that, but she had to go because the rain was getting heavier. She made a suit for the snakes out of her new socks because she realized that the snakes were hiding due to the rain and thunder. Tsumiki thanks Mirai for warning her, and worrying about her, she always pampers Tsumiki like that. So Tsumiki wants to return the favor. Just then, the teacher came and told the three of them to go home. Mirai says that today is a beautiful day and walks freely in the rain while Tsumiki covers her with an umbrella. Yutaka stood looking at the two of them and thought they got along so well. Sugimi Michi is someone who has always admired Genjin. She recently joined the newspaper club and is currently assigned to interview Genjin. The students of Keiki School all have a positive view of the relationship between humans and Genjin, and Mirai is grateful that they always happily answer each of her questions. Today is the day that Sugimi will interview the person she admires the most, a female wolf Tsumiki Ogami. She was popular, cheerful, and friendly, so Sugimi was sure that Sumiki would welcome her with a big smile. However, what she found was the complete opposite. Sumiki was whining, a sight rarely seen. When Sugimi asked the reason, Sumiki replied that Yutaka was sick and absent today. Sugimi could understand that the wolves cared about their pack, so no matter what, Sumiki happily participated in the interview and asked what they would talk about. Sugimi replied that they couldn't follow the conversation like a regular interview because the Genjins were very different from each other. Like the famous vampire Senga and his seductive smell, Sumiki tells her about the time she shared her blood with Sengai and was instantly healed thanks to her superhuman healing abilities. Sugimi was shocked to hear about this and asked her about where he bit her. Sumiki said he bit her on the neck, and she didn't object because he looked hungry. Sugimi was angry and cursed Senga for biting an important part of Sumiki's body. Their conversation continued when a boy came asking about Yutaka. He came to return a dictionary he borrowed from Yutaka and left on his desk. Then another student came over and gave him some candy as a thank you for helping him. After a few times like this, Yutaka's desk was full of things that everyone left behind. Maybe because his nature is always ready to help people when needed. Finally, the class rep came to give Tsumiki the copies so she could deliver them to Yutaka at his house. Tsumiki arrives at Yutaka's house and a small girl opens the door. The girl is Yutaka's younger sister named Yu and informs Tsumiki that his parents are not at home. Then the little girl ran inside and told her brother that his friend had arrived. Yu crawled up from the first floor, and Yutaka told Yu not to go upstairs. He saw Tsumiki and told her to leave the printouts at the door because he had been told not to come down. Due to his fever, Tsumiki suggests going up instead since she has high immunity and can't get sick. Yutaka agreed, so Tsumiki went up to Yutaka's room. Tsumiki continued to give Yutaka copies and things that people left on his desk. Yutaka seems a bit dreamy and doesn't think too much about personal space. Tsumiki noticed this difference and thought it might be because he had a fever. Yutaka wants to take something from the upper shelf Tsumiki offers to help, but Yutaka says he can do it alone. Tsumiki was surprised but still helped Yutaka, saying that he should ask for help when needed. Yutaka asked for one more thing, which was to put cooling gel pads on his forehead and neck. He even guided her through each step, because he knew that Tsumiki had never used them before. Tsumiki followed the instructions and applied the gel pad to Yutaka's forehead and neck, while thinking about Sugimi's words that these are important positions and should only be revealed to those who trust them. When she finished her work, Tsumiki felt very shy and said she was going home. On the way home, she still thought about that shy moment. The next day, Tsumiki is very excited because tomorrow is Keiki High's Sports Festival, an event she has been waiting for a long time. As a member of the sports committee, she has to cheer for her blue team. However, all her excitement suddenly turned to horror, as her sharp nails rubbed against the blackboard, creating a harsh sound that she was the one most affected by. At the end of May, the biggest event of the first semester is the Keiki High Sports Festival. Even the public is welcomed as an audience. The food stalls from the school canteen are very popular. And, of course, the purpose of the event is to deepen the relationship between Genjin and humans, as announced on the school's website. But after all, it was a festival. If Yutaka was looking forward to the fun part of the festival right now, he was holding a decorative box and walking on the school grounds. At that time, Tsumiki called him hanging on the tree like a monkey. She was working on decorating the tree but advised Yutaka to go home early and save his energy for the main event. Yutaka replied that the teacher asked him to bring decorations if they were missing. Tsumiki climbed down because she needed some flags from the decorations. She asked Yutaka if he was feeling well again, since he had to start training for the sports festival as soon as he recovered from his illness. Yutaka said he felt fine, and also thanked her for bringing him the documents. Tsumiki noticed that the flags were tangled together, and it seemed that Yutaka noticed it too, as he began to untangle them, telling her that his memories of the past were a bit fuzzy, but he felt like he had been pampered too much. He thought there was a big difference between relying on someone and being pampered, so he apologized for his actions. However, Tsumiki did not mind because she thought that this event brought about the emotions she wanted to seek with everyone. And since tomorrow was the sports festival, she was sure that there would be a lot of different emotions, so she was determined to find out Yutaka's feelings. Yutaka thanked her, although he thought that those feelings were only possible because of Tsumiki's feelings for him. On the way home, a text message from someone made his heart freeze, saying that she was coming to attend the sports festival. The whole school was packed during the sports festival. Mireille had also been chosen as this year's sports representative, so she was giving the opening speech. Even Tsumiki was impressed with Mireille's confidence. But it was all in vain when Mireille bit her tongue in the middle of her speech. After finishing her speech, the team asked if she was okay, but Mireille seemed unaffected by the mistake as she remained serious. The team was once again impressed by her composure and confidence. Tsumiki gathered everyone into a circle, but realizing that Yutaka was daydreaming, she immediately called him aside. Tsumiki pulled him back and sat close to him. But the boys in the class were not happy about this, and that caused the pre-match preparations to be interrupted. In any case, the enthusiasm seems to be focused on Yutaka before the sports festival. The teams are divided into red, blue, and yellow, and the matches begin. Tsumiki invited Yutaka to sit with her and watch from the front row. The first member of the blue team is a Genjin with a supple and strong body. Tsumiki says that with all her arms, this challenge definitely won't be a problem for her. But the first challenge is the net, and she was miserably caught in the net. The next person is Suikatu, an invisible person. He always dresses so that others can see his position. The next game is candy hunting. They have to blow dough to find candy, but Sui took this game to a new level by eating the candies. The last person on the team is Hiyori Kurohane. A bird-type Genjin. Tsumiki reminds her that flying is not allowed in this area, so she must jump hard. The next contest is the bread-eating contest. Hiyori easily jumped up, chewed her bread, and ran towards the finish line. Watad, the blue team wins these competitions, so their celebrations are off to a good start. This was Keiki High's famous sports festival, but Yutaka wondered if they deliberately chose such ordinary games. However, the teachers are satisfied because so far nothing unusual has happened. Tsumiki invites Yutaka to the next event as they will both be participating, but they are stopped by two girls who threaten Tsumiki with a needle. Yutaka and Tsumiki didn't know who they were, but the boys in the class were very excited to see these two girls standing in front of them. One of them is Kiba Kanami, a half-mermaid who has 150,000 followers on TikTok. Every video she posts becomes viral because she is a beautiful and cool girl. Yutaka could feel the heat radiating from the boys looking at her. The second person is Roman Unami, a unicorn with 130,000 followers on Insight. Her soft, pleasant voice makes her live broadcasts on Insight very popular. She is so soft and cute that all the guys are falling for her charms. However, the boys do not forget about a rare animal, a species in need of protection who has no interest in social networks. Her innocence touched their hearts because the person they were mourning was Tsumiki. Ogami, a wolf girl. The boys were all very excited to see the complete collection of the three beautiful first-year girls of Keiki High. Everything was so brilliant that they were worried that it was only the morning that everything had reached its climax. Kanami squeezes Tsumiki's hand and says she has been waiting for this day for a long time, the day she can confront her directly. And since today is a sports festival, you can feel free to inject her as much as you want. Yutaka noticed Kanami's eyes going crazy, and she seemed quite scary right now. To her surprise, Tsumiki was getting defensive. She asked Kanami to let go. Unami was enjoying the scene between the two, so Yutaka asked her what was going on, but Unami also looked very scary, as she was ready to stab him, just because he dared to talk to her. Tsumiki didn't understand what was going on, and Unami called Kanami a battle fanatic. but she herself found it interesting, so she came to watch. Konami says she came here to declare war and threatens Sumiki that she will crush her. Sumiki is aiming for the blue team's victory. This is her first sports festival since entering Keiki High, but two assassins are standing in her way. What are they planning? Next was Keiki High's gymnastics event, a dodgeball game for the first-year students. Each team captain will wear a basket on their back and must run around without letting the ball fall into the basket. The event area is a special stage of Keiki School. Everyone must use their physical abilities to the maximum. The team with the fewest balls in their basket wins. The captains of the blue, red, and yellow teams are all ready with their baskets. It seems that Sugimi is also a fan of these three captains. She wishes she could have another set of eyes to witness this rare moment. Of course, Tsumiki is her favorite. But today, she's on Unami's team, so she encourages Yutaka to do his best. Everyone's attention was attracted by a penalty game. Konami was the one who proposed that the losing team would have to do whatever the winning team asked, as there would be more punishments. Although people may comment that Konami is such a stimulating person, Tsumiki is not far behind. She accepts this challenge. Meanwhile, Yutaka is worried about Sumiki and asks her if she understood what Konami just said. The only thing Sumiki could think of was skipping lunch. However, both Konami and Unami said they wouldn't ask her to do that. They've decided what they want, but won't tell her right now to keep some suspense. Konami tells Sumiki to look forward to it after she loses. Sumiki angrily says that Konami is talking as if she has already won. Yanid. Finally, the game of chasing the ball site begins. The yellow team is in first place. Unami's agility makes it impossible for anyone to put the ball in the basket. She is trying her best to win Sumiki's penalty game. Actually, the red team was in second place because Konami didn't run, but just threw balloons at her. After a while, she felt exhausted, so she asked for a bottle of water and poured it all over herself. She now regains her senses and continues to chase Sumiki. Yutaka felt confused like the rest of us, but Sugimi explained to them that the water bottle contained seawater. Such is Konami's mermaid nature that when she bathes in seawater, she gains strength, but without seawater, she feels like a dried fish. Yutaka eventually understood that Konami's fast pitches were due to that power boost, but the spins were too strong, so he warned Sumiki to avoid them. However, Tsumiki started catching all the balloons flying towards her and was even excited about it. Therefore, the blue team is definitely at the bottom of the table. When it is announced that the blue team is in last place, this snaps Tsumiki out of her excitement, and she begins to run away. Konami caught up with her and told her to stop. Tsumiki asks why she is the one throwing the ball when this is a running game, and asks why she can't run. Konami said it was okay because no one told them not to throw the ball, and she thinks this game won't be fun without fighting hard. Tsumiki jumped down from the net. Surprising Konami with her speed, she quickly grabbed the net again and threw the ball into Konami's basket, saying they needed to play on a level playing field, because she also wants to fight. Like that. This new challenge made Konami extremely excited, and she agreed with Sumiki. There's never been a match like this where the two captains are having an extremely tense battle for points. They were even close to running out of time, but the other students couldn't keep up with these two sports maniacs. Yutaka is curious about the yellow team and finds their leader Unami resting with Sugimi because she is tired too. Unami says that although Konami is someone who loves fighting, she has so much strength and endurance that no one can play with her until she is satisfied, and most people just give up without trying. Yutaka also remembered how the two of them were interested in the game before Unami goes on to say that Konami is always looking for a friend who can play with her. To the end, Yutaka agrees that they are both amazing. Konami falls face down, so Tsumiki runs over to ask if she's okay. Konami admitted that this was the first time she had played to such a level of exhaustion, and that it was the best feeling of struggle. Both Unami and Sumiki smiled fondly at her. However, Unami was able to throw a ball into Sumiki's basket at the last moment. She said that carelessness is the final boss, so Tsumiki lost the match. After the fierce battle, they took a commemorative photo, and Sumiki's punishment is to film a dance video with Konami. Sugimi is excited because Sumiki will appear in a dance video, and she thinks the dance video will become a special collectible edition. Yutaka felt a bit nervous about this, but Sugimi had already started recording the video. Konami told Sumiki to start, and even though she didn't understand all the dance steps, she still performed extremely well. Osteotanidis, the performance was so cute that Sugimi wanted to upload the video and asked Sumiki if it was allowed. Sumiki has no problem, and Unami enjoys her fluid transformation. Konami also posted the video with the hashtag Yadino dancing with my comrade. And as soon as the video was uploaded, it immediately became extremely popular. Unami thinks it might be even more popular than the video Konami made alone. Sugimi was completely overwhelmed by this amazing video, but when Yutaka wanted to watch it, Tsumiki said he didn't have to watch it. Anyway, the dance video has become a hot topic and attracted a lot of attention. However, Tsumiki announced that it was lunchtime, and that was when she felt most excited today. Tsumiki wanted to go to the food stalls with Yutaka because she had heard about fried burgers. But when Yutaka said he had already bought lunch, she said she would buy lunch, and then the two of them would eat together. Meanwhile, Yutaka's phone rang. He bent down to answer the phone. He smiled happily as he replied that he was busy with the sports festival, and if he could, he would come. Meanwhile, Senga the vampire passed by, saw Yutaka smiling, and sighed. When the call ended, Senga called Yutaka strange after seeing his personality change inexplicably. The Keiki High Sports Festival is entering its second half while everyone else is having lunch. There is a very strange Yutaka, but only Senga is the one who witnesses it. Yutaka politely asked Senga to forget what he had seen, and Senga gave a thumbs up and imitated Utaka's smile, saying that he had completely forgotten, and that everything was forgotten. Yutaka thought he would be able to talk more comfortably now, but in just a moment, everything returned to the way it was. An annoyed Senga sits down next to Yutaka and says that he can finally eat politely, so Yutaka should stop being so dark and unpleasant. Senga then took a bag of blood from the box and gave it to Yutaka. A surprised Senga told him that his blood bag arrived today. Although blood donation is important for medical treatment nowadays, if you register, you can get a Genjin allowance. But these are not many. And because Senga has these temptations, his applications were often denied, all because they assumed he had no problem receiving blood. Debuwada, so this was the only precious blood bag he received thanks to his application. Yutaka understood that this blood bag was extremely valuable, but Senga told him not to have that pitiful look because only Yutaka could understand his own problems, just like Senga understood the difficulty of being him. To be able to eat enough, he had to always pretend to be an idol because the amount of blood a person could give was limited, so he decided to be everyone's idol. He tells Yutaka that he played that role just now because there was some benefit in it. So if he did it out of necessity, then don't sigh about it. At least that's how Senga thinks everyone gets along, on the basis of benefits and losses. Senga then wondered if there was any benefit to Yutaka playing with him, especially since he sucked Tsumiki's blood before he thought that Yutaka would definitely have some hatred. Even though he didn't suck her blood anymore, but it was clear that Tsumiki was special to Yutaka. To Senga, it was just a meal, but Yutaka was a human, so he was definitely planning something. Senga thought that Yutaka was thick enough to be friends with him, but he guessed that it was just an act. After that, Senga stood up and left without saying anything more. Yutaka also returned to the field to find Konami, who was very excited, and ordered his teammates to change their tug-of-war formation, which was the next event. However, Konami said that they would win in the blink of an eye with practice, so she wanted to give it another challenge. However, her team says they are missing one person as Senga doesn't seem to be coming. And even if he did show up, he wouldn't make any effort. It's ironic that Senga heard all this and thought it wasn't good at all. He only had one time, but even if he thought about going out, even if he stayed behind, he would still be within the scope of his temptation. And it would take too much time, so he decided to leave. However, Tsumiki caught him and asked if he would join since he had already entered the field. Senga told her that he would not participate and asked her not to get too close to him, as it would upset Yutaka. Tsumiki says that Yutaka is a good guy, but Senga says that a lot of people who appear kind and harmless turn out to be psychopaths. Tsumiki used her super hearing when Senga said that, and she heard Yutaka now talking to his class. Who knows what he was planning? Tsumiki tells Senga that Yutaka said that Senga would come. Senga thought for a moment and said that it was a bit strange why he suddenly spoke up like that towards the opposing team. Tsumiki feels insulted and tells Senga that she can trust Yutaka. Now it's time for the tug-of-war competition. As of now, the yellow team is leading. This afternoon there will be another fierce battle. It was a 3-team tug-of-war between all the freshmen. The team that pulls the ring out of the designated area wins. When the count reaches 2, the contest begins. The 3 participating teams all tried their best. Konami was excited to learn that Senga was also participating in the game. Sugami was shocked that they could balance the power to this extent. When they first entered school, everyone had to have their physical fitness measured, and the school used these parameters to divide them into classes. She admitted that Keiki High was amazing, because they balanced everything perfectly. Unami found it refreshing to have such a helpful explanation in a tense moment. Both Sumiki and Yutaka also noticed that Senga has joined the game, and remember the time when they were looking for Mirei's glasses and Senga came to help them. Even though he said he couldn't and didn't want to help, he persisted in searching the bushes for glasses. On the other hand, Senga really didn't want to participate in tug-of-war, especially at a big event like this with so many people. And it was also very physically difficult for him. But he also wondered why Yutaka didn't give up on him, even though it was clear that he had no benefit in trying to create a place for him. He gradually realized that this was not simply a matter of gain or loss. So Senga put all his strength into pulling the rope, causing the other teams to also be pulled towards him. Thanks to that, the yellow team won one step closer to the championship. Unami is fed up with this sporting event, and Konami is sure that his team will win. But the yellow team is too strong now, especially after Senga joined. However, the star character of the match is feeling very bad. With a weak constitution and little blood, he knew in advance that he would suffer short-term memory loss. His hands were even chapped, and he finally clearly felt the harshness of the tug-of-war. Hi? What surprised him was that both Sumiki and Yutaka came to him and actively extended their arms to him. Yutaka asked if he could drink blood from a dune, and Sumiki said she didn't mind if he wanted to drink blood from her hand. Yutaka reminds Sumiki that she still has many competitions to attend, but so does he. Both of them showed extremely determined expressions as if to say, "Choose me." However, Senga refused. He decided he would not drink the blood of his friends or those important to them. The two of them had absolutely no idea what he was saying, causing Senga to exclaim that they were so stupid. Why? The Keiki School Sports Festival is almost over, and there are only a few events left, so the teachers encourage everyone to do their best until the very end. The yellow team is currently leading by a large margin, so the final relay suddenly becomes extremely important. And the blue team is forced to score very high in this section. To have any hope of turning the tide, the blue team is enthusiastically cheering for their relay team, but is missing an important member, Sumiki. Actually, she was practicing in her head with great enthusiasm. In her imagination, she sprinted to the finish line and even won absolutely. She was more enthusiastic than usual because she wanted to win this festival. For the blue team of first year grade 1, this is the only chance they have, so she really hopes the blue team wins this time. The whole team hugged each other to cheer each other up. At that time, a group of male students appeared complaining that Genjin appeared everywhere, causing chaos. One of them recognized the famous werewolf girl from the viral video and immediately wanted to take a photo of her. A boy dressed in black suddenly recognized Yutaka, and Yutaka immediately greeted him with a frantic and slightly panicked look. Yutaka quickly pushed the group away from Sumiki, while the boy in black told his friends that Yutaka was an acquaintance in the neighborhood and went to the same school as him. He said that Yutaka is always super active, but he has never seen Yutaka participate in the neighborhood community chat group. He expressed surprise when he learned that Yutaka had entered Kaki High and asked if he really liked Genjin. Yutaka shouted loudly, interrupting the question, causing his friend to warn him that he was too noisy. However, when his friend continued to ask about Genjin, Yutaka loudly interrupted again and quickly argued that he was on the journey to find himself. It was a very indescribable feeling, as if now is the time. Suddenly came Yutaka said that he wanted to change himself, and accidentally saw a flyer from Keiki School, and felt very suitable, but at that time, I could only smile wryly and couldn't tell anyone. Yutaka's explanation seemed to work because the guy in black asked if he would participate in the relay race, then told Yutaka to try his best to make them laugh. Yutaka thought to himself that in the end, everything was the same as always while Sumiki was staring at him with curious eyes. The next match was the event that everyone was looking forward to. The lone race obstacles have been placed in front of the finish line, so contestants must choose which items to borrow wisely to aim for victory. They must ensure that the item they borrow matches the given theme, as there will be a checkpoint to confirm the item. The first runner of the blue team is ready, while the audience is talking loudly that, according to rumors, if you are chosen as an item in the borrow race contest in Keiki, there is a high possibility that the couple will become lovers. The male students see this as an opportunity to start dating Tsumiki, so everyone hopes to be chosen. One boy loudly told Tsumiki that if she had to choose a rude boy as a topic, then choose him, while the others silently prayed the topic would be related to their species. Yutaka sat alone in the back, pondering that it would be nice if he could honestly confide in someone. At that moment, Tsumiki approached quickly, lifted him onto her shoulder, and announced that he had been borrowed. The other male students were extremely angry at this blatant display of favoritism, and questioned whether Yutaka was really suitable for the topic that needed to be borrowed. Because that was the most important thing, Tsumiki immediately held up the paper, with the topic in front of the testing station, and the teacher confirmed it, even looking extremely excited. Yasuris, the male students could clearly see the expression, "Oh my god, this is youth," clearly visible on the teacher's face. However, the audience couldn't help but be confused, wondering why Tsumiki was carrying Yutaka around like that. According to the rules she heard earlier, participants must carry the item to the finish line, so Tsumiki simply did just that. Tsumiki is a very straightforward person, so everyone can only hope that Yutaka will be okay. After the yellow team, Tsumiki's blue team finished second, Tsumiki tells Yutaka that those who have completed the test should sit down and rest, but Yutaka doesn't look too good right now. She gave him a piece of paper with the topic, Yao, but Yutaka still couldn't understand why she chose him. Tsumiki explains that Yutaka's childhood friend had come here before to spend time with him. She remembered that, but she herself thought that she would not be able to do so, because she has too many habits and characteristics that make it difficult for her to integrate. If she starts restraining herself, there will never be a stop. However, for Yutaka, even if he gets hurt, he always tries his best so that no one else has to feel bad. And that way he is living the best life possible, and that's why he is exactly like the game's theme. A very wonderful person. Yutaka was touched and thanked her for choosing him. The results of the borrowing race were also announced. The yellow team came in first, the blue team came in second, and the red team came in third, so the yellow team still maintained the top spot. Everyone was asked to turn in their topic paper, but Yutaka asked to keep his own. When he was accepted, he thanked the teacher. Thinking back ever since he met Tsumiki, everything was like a tornado, leaving him no time to immerse himself in heavy thoughts. It was she who helped him a lot. Tsumiki wants the blue team to win, so when the guy in black approaches to remind Yutaka not to embarrass him, Yutaka calmly responds that they will win. The final event of the relay race started impressively, and the contestants started running. The audience was excited because they would finally witness the race between boys and girls, between Genjins and humans, in a dramatic contest where only the speed of their feet was the important factor. The freshman relay race gives enough points to close the score gap. If the blue team doesn't win this race, they won't win overall. The team's first runners were extremely strong, with Tsumiki, the hyper-competitive Kanami, and Unami, the fastest runner among the freshmen. They need to create as large a lead as possible before it's the turn of the final runners. Yutaka looked very focused and serious as he remembered the first time he met the boy in black at Sudo. At that time, Yutaka's family had just moved to the neighborhood, and he was in the same class as Atsudu. When the class bothered Yutaka with too many personal questions, it was Atsudu who told the class to be quiet. Before long, Yutaka begins to admire Atsudu for his straightforwardness. He even told his mother that Atsudu always says what's on his mind. At that time, Yutaka's mother said that Atsudu's family is currently having a difficult time, so we should be there to help him when needed. Yutaka didn't quite understand but still agreed. Atsudu has excellent reflexes, runs very fast, and practices every day. Yutaka asked if he really loved running since he practiced so every day. Atsudu replied that because when he runs, he doesn't have to think about anything. Gradually, things changed. Atsudu quit the track club, and when his other friends asked if his family agreed with this decision, Yutaka interrupted, speaking loudly, causing Atsudu to scold him for being too loud. Yutaka didn't know what to do. All he could do was try to keep things from getting worse. He wanted to consult his mother, but she was busy with her little sister, so he decided to ask the teacher for help. The teacher said he would pay attention to the situation, but when Yutaka asked him what he should do, the teacher replied, telling him to keep doing what he was doing. Because even though they don't look alike at all, they're very good friends. Yutaka doesn't understand this. How can this continue forever? Finally, when he was filling out the career survey, he didn't know what to write. But as soon as Yutaka bitterly said that it was easy because Yutaka must have a dream or something he wanted to do, Atsudu said that he was lucky, so don't pretend like you have nothing. Yutaka hated himself, but he couldn't forget them. Memories of happy times with Atsudu. The person he admired still remains. I don't want to pretend like those things never happened. Atsudu could see a part of the past when he watched Yutaka run in the relay and felt troublesome. In the far corner, it was blue, red, and then yellow, and now Tsumiki was extremely excited with everyone cheering Yutaka on. However, suddenly all the participants on the track fell down, making everyone extremely surprised. In fact, the track was frozen due to snowmen sitting nearby. This water comes from Kane's strength-enhancing bath. Yutaka hurt his leg, but there was still a long way to go to Tsumiki, and if he couldn't move, the team wouldn't be able to win. Tsumiki called him and asked if he could move. Spoi! Yutaka tried to move and pass the baton to her. With the passing of the baton, the blue team took the lead, and the red team also caught up. The yellow team was the last team to pass the baton, but Unami wasn't worried because she knew for sure that there was no way she could lose. Therefore, the yellow team quickly caught up with Unami's Naruto run. The atmosphere becomes hotter when the three teams are close to each other. But at the finish line, Unami stabbed the yellow wire into his body, but the torso is the deciding factor, so there will be a video review. In the end, the blue team won. Thanks to the efforts of the new students, the blue team got closer to the final victory. Next up was the sophomore team relay. Yutaka sees Atsudu, who says it's been a while since he's actually seen Yutaka again. With a sincere smile on his face, Atsudu said that Yutaka has really changed since entering Keiki High. Yutaka also agreed because there were people here who allowed him to be a bad child. Tsumiki smiled with satisfaction looking at her trophy. Keiki School's sports festival has ended with 3 teams, blue team, red team, and yellow team participating in dramatic matches. However, in the second half of the event, the blue team caught up and took the overall victory. And the next event is the midterm exam. Tsumiki was tired after completing the first day of exams. Because the sports festival ended so quickly, she didn't go home right away and still had to study. She asked about tomorrow's exam, and when she was told the first subject was math, she immediately got up and ran away before thanking them for informing her. The situation is not very good because math is the subject she hates the most. She wondered where she should study because at home there were too many games, and in class there were too many people talking. She kept pacing back and forth in front of the class, so Yutaka asked her if anything was wrong, and she asked about the study location he suggested. Tsumiki told Yutaka that she always had bad grades in high school and often ranked very low in the rankings. But if she fails this exam, she might be retained in class, which she really doesn't want. Yutaka told her about a library in his area and asked if she wanted to go there with him. She asked if that was okay, and Yutaka replied that as long as she was comfortable, they could study together. He said he liked math and could help her. Tsumiki is happy to hear this news, but then acts sad because Yutaka likes math, as if it's strange. Tsumiki was surprised and asked where he usually studied. Yutaka replied that he studied in the seat at the back of the room. Tsumiki also agreed that sitting at the edge of the room was a good idea so they could relax. When you see a sign asking to keep quiet, Tsumiki started to be quiet and even used gestures. Yutaka realized why she was acting like that, and told her that it would be okay if they just made small talk. Tsumiki made a face like a goldfish, and Yutaka asked her to repeat. She came closer and whispered to him, "How quiet is enough silence?" Yutaka is surprised and eventually realizes that Tsumiki's hearing is very sensitive, making silence completely different for her. He showed her that this was enough, and Tsumiki finally understood. Yutaka noticed that there were times when she seemed very shy, and sometimes she would move closer to him, making him uncertain but unable to relax. Meanwhile, Tsumiki asked about a middle school review exercise about water flowing into a divided tank at a constant rate, but she couldn't understand why there was a divider right in there. She doubted even that drawing, but she didn't stop. She wondered about point P and asked where point P came from and why it wanted to move now. She was strangely attracted to that point P. Yutaka said that he was also curious, but they needed to learn what was needed for tomorrow first, and then they could talk about point P later. Finally, Tsumiki tries to solve the assignment, and with a little help from Yutaka, she thinks she should just give it a try. Yutaka recalled that she was quite embarrassed when her nails grew longer, so he wondered when she started keeping them trimmed. Because now she looks outstanding. Tsumiki realized Yutaka was daydreaming, so he quickly apologized and gave a few suggestions to solve the assignment. She told him not to worry about him, to just study what he wanted, and when he was done, he could look over her paper. So they started studying, but how could he concentrate? The exam continued, and a week later the teacher announced that he would return the math test. He also said that the average score this time was 67 points. When Tsumiki looked at her score, she just stared at it, and Yutaka hesitantly asked her how she did. Like us, she gently showed him her score 41 points. Yutaka encouraged her that she did not fail, but Tsumiki said it was amazing because it was the first time she had such a high score. If she continues to study hard, getting 100 points is not unrealistic. She told Yutaka that he was really good at teaching, so she bet he would get 100 points. Yutaka hit his score and said he was as good as usual. Tsumiki thought it would be good, but she didn't know that Yutaka had scored 70 points. The flow of events in the first half of the first semester ends in June. The relationship between classmates has become more cohesive. Yutaka is welcomed by his classmates. The Invisible Man asked him what he thought of his new summer shirt, while the only person advised him to be straightforward in his compliments, as this person would continue to bother him until he did. The Invisible Man felt hurt by these words, and to show his sad face, he asked for a pen and paper. He drew a face on paper to show his emotions right now, but his friends couldn't help but laugh. Gradually, Yutaka had more friends to talk to, and this made him feel happy. The class is greeted by Tsumiki in her summer uniform. Even the only boy admitted that she was cuter than he thought, truly unbelievably cute. Tsumiki greets the girls and asks Mirai if she can do it. Mirai really has no other choice, so she started brushing Tsumiki's ear hair. Tsumiki always feels good when doing that. Mirai asks if there's any difference, and Tsumiki replies that it's a lot better when someone you like does it for you. Oni banged his head on the table because only his closest friends had that privilege, and he wondered how he could reach that level. The Invisible Man points out that the Oni has a hard time even talking to her, but the Oni tells him to shut up because he's feeling the pain here. Time passed with normal daily routines, and Yutaka realized that they hadn't really talked to each other lately. But there was a reason, because all the interesting things happened, and that was why they had a chance to talk. But those are just special cases. It's fun in the moment. But Yutaka guessed that this was how their daily lives went. Yutaka found Tsumiki in the gym and tried to leave, but Tsumiki recognized him. She asked him if he was coming in, and he quickly gave a reason why he was here. Yutaka wonders how he was able to converse with her before and asks what she is doing here. Tsumiki replied that she was in the sports department and she was counting the amount of sports equipment. Tsumiki noticed Yutaka seemed strange, so she grabbed him and asked why he was avoiding her. Now Yutaka didn't want to talk to her. He didn't have to pretend like that. Yutaka said that over the past few weeks he had thought a lot about how comfortable he felt around her. But he couldn't shake the feeling that he and Tsumiki lived in two completely different worlds. Tsumiki becomes confused and says that Yutaka is very important to her, and there is no way that can change. Yutaka was surprised, then Tsumiki apologized and asked him to give her his hand so she could put the toothbrush in his hand. Then she lost her temper and took off her shoes, and sat with her back to Yutaka, saying she was a bit angry, so now she felt itchy and asked him to brush her. Yutaka opened the brush, grabbed her tail, and started brushing. I also apologized to Tsumiki, said that he had actually wanted to talk to her the whole time. Tsumiki sheepishly admitted it, but just then they heard the bells signaling class time, and hurried back to class. They arrived to class on time, but still got scolded for running in the hallway. The boys wondered why they were running like that, worried when they hadn't seen the two of them together recently. However, they are surprised to see fur on Yutaka's uniform. It wasn't until now that Yutaka realized it, but the whole class had been paying attention for a long time. The teacher asked the class to start studying, but the whole class said they couldn't concentrate on the lesson anymore. The wave of events in the first half of the first semester has ended. Summer vacation is coming, and when that time comes, that's also the time when love confessions and dating requests appear. It's like the number of love confessions has skyrocketed. Thank you, Unami. She rejected the boy who had just expressed his courage. Even classmates wrote down the numbers, and as far as they knew, this was the 10th guy. They all have a pretty good relationship with Unami, but they wonder why she never accepts anyone. A guy still hasn't given up and asked Unami that she said she liked him so many times. She admitted that she liked him a lot, just like she said. She also wants to invite him to see a movie tomorrow. And even got tickets to a couples-only film festival. The boy doesn't understand how this works when she still rejects him. Unami says that the ticket says any male-female couple is accepted, so it's okay. But the guy said that if she didn't have romantic feelings for someone, she couldn't easily say she liked them because that would be misleading. Unami stabbed her horn into a tree because she didn't understand this at all. She doesn't see anything wrong with telling people she likes them, and doesn't see why there should be misunderstandings. She felt very sorry because she liked everyone and really wanted to see that movie. Yutaka found her while she was moaning, and she threatened to stab him for looking. Yutaka apologizes and tries to warn her about the tree. But Unami told him that they wanted the trees cut down, so it was okay since she was allowed to use her horn. Yutaka tried to warn her again, but the tree suddenly broke. Unfortunately, Tsumiki arrived in time and held it back. Unami apologizes for being distracted and thanks them, but she stops before telling them she loves them, because now she can't say it so casually anymore. Tsumiki picks up the movie ticket from the ground, and Unami tells her that it's for tomorrow. Her plans were cancelled, so she decided to give them to Tsumiki. Utica wondered if Tsumiki was going to hold the tree as if it were nothing while talking to them. Tsumiki said she could go with Unami. Unami really wants to go with her, but tickets are only for male and female couples. Tsumiki says they can all go together. So both girls went to the cinema, and it was the first time for Tsumiki Unami told her that this cinema specifically catered to people with special personalities like Genjin. So she highly encouraged Tsumiki to come here. Tsumiki asked what kind of movie they were going to watch, and Unami said it was a romance movie. And a friend of hers was going to appear in the movie, so she thought she would send him a review. Yutaka also arrives and notices that they are attracting too much attention. Although there are quite a few Genjin at Keiki High School in society, they are less common. Unami is quite famous on her social media, and Tsumiki appeared in a viral dance video with Kanami Yutaka, wonders if everything is okay and worries if they can watch this movie in peace. However, Tsumiki arranged everything well. She told everyone to line up if they also wanted to buy food, and led the crowd telling them to order like this. Unami also joined in and told everyone that if they took pictures, without permission she will stab them. These two are really strong. The movie is about to start, so the two girls equip themselves with sunglasses and earmuffs provided by the cinema, like Batman's vision. Tsumiki explained that she read online that it might be too bright at first, so she brought these, but they weren't actually necessary, so they took them off. Yutaka felt the movie dragged on a bit, but this is exactly the type of romance movie. However, he really wished they could get straight to the story without wasting too much time. He glanced at Tsumiki and saw that she was blushing. Unami watched the movie very calmly, but when the characters in the movie talked about love, and the words they said only to their lover Unami tightened the straw in her hand. After the movie ended, she thanked the two people for coming to watch it with her. And Tsumiki did the same because the movie was really interesting. Yutaka also said that he felt the ending of the film was truly emotional. Unami said she would let her friend know about this. But then she realized that she really shouldn't have said that. She thinks that the word love is a word used for people you really love. And if you use it too easily, you can hurt others. But she really loves everyone. And she doesn't understand romantic love at all. Unami says she decided to leave but is stopped by Tsumiki. Tsumiki didn't really understand what Unami said, but she thought it was better to let everyone know. Friends and lovers were very important people, so she thought it was better to say it out loud. Unami is encouraged and says that she really loves both Tsumiki and Yutaka. And so Unami's habit of telling people she liked them continued. And it was said that the number of students who had been drowned in the swamp increased. It's the end of July, so Tsumiki tells the group to start the big cleanup. But the question is, why is she barefoot? The answer is simple, because it feels good and comfortable. They wondered why she was happy about this. And Tsumiki says that for people with wolf blood like her, getting dirty is fun. They really had to do this because there was also an indoor swimming pool, although it was rarely used. Today is the last day of the first semester, so Utica needs to ask his friends before they finish cleaning. You won't be able to see everyone again during summer vacation. He gradually got to know and understood everyone better, but just when he thought they could become real friends, the long summer vacation came. It was an attack of 40 days of emptiness. And as the second semester began, Yutaka was completely confident in his ability to be forgotten. I don't know what to say. Is there something that everyone wants to do? With different personalities and natures, each person has their own preferences, and each person also has things they don't like. You really don't know enough about them. Like Guide. At the Hebazono store, she tells loyal customers that she wants to introduce them to pool cleaning products, including a strong stain-removing soap with a sponge, and if they take action now, she also includes a brush. Everyone said in unison that the price was too high. Mirei assigns tasks. Kuro will use a sponge to clean the pool walls. Kurohan will use a broom to sweep the roof of the changing room. And finally, Tsumiki and Matsuiki, because they are quite healthy, will clean the most annoying stains. Matsuiki is excited to not only work in the same area, but also in the same job. This is a great opportunity for him to get closer to Tsumiki. They started working, but Matsuiki couldn't talk to Tsumiki. However, he felt satisfied because Tsumiki was really cute when serious. Meanwhile, Yutaka and Kitu are tasked with spraying water. Where needed, Yutaka thought he should focus on cleaning first. Tsumiki asks him for the spray nozzle and he says she's turning blue. He asked if he needed him to take care of her because maybe it wasn't good for her skin. She closed her eyes and faced him. The idea suddenly came to Yutaka. He used a tissue to wipe her face. But she grabbed his hand and said the spray was fine. Yutaka was startled to realize that he didn't need to use a handkerchief at all. Mitsuki feels jealous of their natural flirting and tells them to get back to work. Mirei looks up at the sky and says that the weather is beautiful today. The group saw the opportunity to ask if they could go home yet, but Mirei zipped up her raincoat, and the group started using water hoses everywhere. Yutaka sat next to him. Sad that they were done, Tsumiki realized that something was wrong and asked Yutaka. Yutaka admitted that he wanted to ask everyone about something, but he didn't know what to say because he didn't understand them well enough. Tsumiki advised him that if he wanted to understand people better, he just needed to ask. Yutaka realized that since he didn't know much about them, he wanted to get to know them better, so he decided to say that he wanted to spend the summer vacation with the group, although he was sure that everyone had their own plans if they couldn't. Then they could tell him, and he would understand and make reasonable arrangements. But if they want to gather, they can inform him, and he will be happy. He realized he had said too much because he was too nervous. But the group said they absolutely wanted to hang out together, even setting up a group chat and deciding to name it Pool Cleaners. Tsumiki tells Yutaka that their summer vacation will be fun. Yutaka also agrees that this summer vacation will be wonderful. Yutaka returns home and his sister peeks in saying he looks so happy. His phone rang, the sound that signaled that they were making plans for the summer. This is the first time since I entered Keiki High School. His summer begins with jobs like checking signs and checking stores. And with that, the Konami Beach store opened. She was excited and expected the same from Tsumiki and Yutaka. Tsumiki had no idea that Konami's house was a seaside motel. So Konami explained that her father wanted people to love the sea more, so they organized this every year. She asked if they signed up to work because they loved the sea. Yutaka admits that he came here on his sister's advice, but he stops when he says that Tsumiki bought a lot of things when summer vacation started. So now she's out of money. Konami reminded her that it had only been a week. Anyway, since they came to the beach, they would experience the best of everything. Konami welcomes them to his stinging workplace. Tsumiki and Yutaka don't know exactly what injection is, but Yutaka was surprised because both Tsumiki and Konami were experts in serving customers. Hasawan. Konami's father was impressed with the wolf girl, but he was certain that she was no match for his Konami. Since childhood, Konami had incredible strength and agility, and he was surprised when she could stand up and walk. Immediately, Yutaka was also impressed because she grew up so quickly. Konami's father said that was the reason he had never seen her rely on anyone else. Both Tsumiki and Konami froze, then immediately poured water from the bucket over their heads. Konami almost fainted because she is a mermaid-type genjin. Her powers change depending on the presence of water. Tsumiki is a wolf genjin, so she is also very sensitive to temperature. Yutaka asked the store owner if it was okay inside the store, but the store owner said there was no problem, which was reasonable since they had been informed that customers could be splashed with seawater. All customers are looking at one person in particular, the famous customer complaint master streamer, Mr. Y Pei. Today, he came here to test customer service again. Broadcasting live Genjin stores usually attract a lot of viewers, and Today is the store where Konami, who has a lot of viral videos, is working. So he sees an opportunity to make big money and plans to take full advantage of gullible people. Yutaka had seen this person before, and he told others that Mr. Pei creates content about bad customer service. He places ridiculously annoying orders but executes them so well that the stores lose customers. Yutaka asked what they would do with streamers since their store's slogan was to make people laugh and help them love the ocean more. And he is also a customer. Konami says she will deal with him. So the two continued their work. Konami approached Mr. Pei and asked if he had decided on the dish yet. The man nodded and gave a very long order. Konami notes everything down, determined to protect her father's store. She can do everything alone. But when he returned, the customers had left. Konami was stunned, and immediately Tsumiki poured a bucket of water on her head, telling her that now was the time to inject. Even Mr. Pei was also soaked, but Yutaka promptly came to the rescue, apologizing and fixing his hair. The man was impressed that he fixed his hair immediately, whereas every morning it takes him an hour to do his hair. Even the Wild Wolf girl had excellent customer service, and the speed at which the food arrived on the table was beyond reproach. And most importantly, to serve a media person and streamer like this with a bright smile. But what about the taste? He tried a piece and was clearly impressed. Tsumiki and Konami celebrate by clapping their hands in victory. Konami's father shed happy tears and thanked them. He was very happy that his daughter had smart friends like this. It was wonderful. He gave them a salary and invited them to join Konami because there was a place she always went to. The two found Konami in a wonderful place. She told them that every time something good happened, she came here. Whenever I can be near the sea, it's the best thing. But she also thanked them because today was the most wonderful day. Back at the Wolf family, the first daughter, Sumiki, is playing a watermelon game with her siblings. However, the second daughter, Itsuki, told her that there was no watermelon. It seemed like she had forgotten the most important thing. So she decided to go buy one, but was stopped by the children. They asked her how she could forget the watermelon, but didn't want her to go because they knew she would be distracted. Tsuki couldn't take it anymore and decided to go buy watermelon. However, her children stood still because she hated going out. Itsuki reminds Tsumiki that she promised to play with everyone today, and she has been away most of the time since summer vacation started making the children feel lonely. Tsumiki asked if she could bring it all back: watermelon, some snacks, Ramoon, and fireworks for everyone. Itsuki just said that she was out, deciding not to bring anything with her. In the outside world, Itsuki begins his journey and continues to smell his way. The world outside was terrible, so she thought she shouldn't go out. She wondered why Tsumiki always seemed so happy when she went out. Hainam, she didn't even know the way and had to look at the map, which was no longer there. Luckily, Yutaka found her note and the two recognized each other. Tsumiki thanked her and continued, but she didn't know where to go. Yutaka told her that he was also on his way to the supermarket and asked if she wanted to come along. The watermelon was out, so Itsuki had to find another store. She receives a text from Sumiki who tells her that if she gets stuck, leave it to her. Itsuki left the store, but Yutaka was the one who showed her the way back, asking her if she didn't come here often. She replied that she didn't come often because she hated the outside world. It was too noisy, there were too many smells she couldn't distinguish, and the summer was too hot. Even though the world outside is terrible, Sumiki always looks happy every time she goes out. But today they had Tsumiki at home with them, and she told everyone to share the watermelon because it would be fun. That's why she had to buy melons today, and she wanted to do the best she could. However, she breathed a sigh of relief when she received a text message from Tsumiki. She thinks it's a bad place, but Yutaka thinks she can learn to like it. Itsuki remembers when Tsumiki showed her the beauty of the outside world and said that she would definitely learn to love it. And now Itsuki can finally see that beautiful world. She asked, "What sound is that?" Yutaka told her that it was the sound of summer. They found watermelons, and Itsuki was able to buy 4. Even the seller said that summer is the time to eat watermelon, and wished her to enjoy the summer. She thanked him, but realized that Yutaka was smiling because she looked just like Tsumiki did then, and he really felt like they were sisters. However, Itsuki says that they are not the same because Sumiki is truly amazing, and she is very proud of her. Itsuki returned to the cave, but was immediately surrounded by her siblings, who began sniffing her all over in a full-body checkup. Tsumiki asks if anything happened, but Itsuki tells her it's nothing too bad. Sugimi is worried because they only went out to look for ladybugs but ended up in a world full of ghosts. Tsumiki is certain that if ghosts appear, she will defeat them with her fist. Yutaka worried about the poor ghost, thinking it would regret more in this world. But Senga wondered why Yutaka was so interested in a ghost. Sugimi says that this place is too dangerous, and suggests that everyone find a gift for Tsumiki's younger brother somewhere else. She told everyone to walk close together so they wouldn't get separated. But Tsumiki and Yutaka have already disappeared. Hi. Sugimi felt that something was definitely wrong since they were standing close to each other just a moment ago. With Tsumiki's hearing ability, she can definitely hear people calling her, but Sugimi's mind was engrossed in thinking about another dimension, and did not want to live in a world without Tsumiki. Senga told Sugimi not to make herself sick with worry, because the other two will definitely be fine. He suggested that we should quickly go down the mountain because there was absolutely no phone signal here. Sugimi wondered why things turned out like this. She recalls that it was Tsumiki who asked her for help, and of course she immediately agreed. But now there's no signal, and the only person she can rely on this haunted mountain is Senga. At first she was quite excited because he was a vampire, but then discovered that he was sometimes joking, sometimes dull, sometimes excited like Misaka, and now he became someone to be wary of. Furthermore, he is the type of person who only thinks about everything in terms of pros and cons, so he will likely use her as bait for the devil. She told herself to always be careful. Senga asked her what she was afraid of because there was nothing scary on this mountain. But just saw across, he immediately screamed and fell to the ground. Regaining his composure, Senga decided to continue walking, but Sugimi warned him of the garlic road ahead. Senga had now completely given up, but Sugimi still pulled him along, grumbling as he walked that his Genjin nature had many wonderful special abilities. But for some reason today he only encountered the things he was weakest at. Senga countered that it wasn't his fault and complained that his eyes hurt from the smell of garlic. Sugimi said that if that was the case, at least he would go on his own properly. Finally, the two reached a tunnel that just looking at it they knew was definitely haunted. There is light at the end of the tunnel. But why is it so far away? Senga reminds her of his seductive powers, warning that if they get stuck in the tunnel, it will be dangerous. Sugimi wasn't worried. She said if anything happened, she would just record it objectively, like a cold observer. Senga was quite impressed with her level of Genjin love, thinking to herself that maybe she could be friends with her, but was immediately coldly rejected by Sugimi. When Sugimi heard a strange sound, she panicked and asked Senga if he heard it, and then told him to run at full speed to the exit. Senga took the opportunity to make a condition that if Sugimi agreed to be his friend, he would lead her out of the tunnel. Sugimi angrily asked if he wanted her to throw him straight into that damn garlic field, and then even yelled at the chatty Masokis to stop acting so happy. Senga suggested that if possible she could tell him more about werewolves, since she seemed to know a lot about Genjin. Hearing that Sugimi was immediately dissatisfied and asked if he was planning to target Tsumiki again, Senga quickly explained that it wasn't, he just thought it might be useful for Yutaka. Sugimi had a hard time believing why he would do that for Yutaka because she knew clearly that Senga was the type of person who only acted based on benefits and losses and did not easily help anyone. But Senga was honest that he just wanted to return the favor. Normally, he doesn't care too much about being exposed to the sun, but summer is really harsh on him. At that time, Yutaka proactively approached him as if everything was very natural. Yutaka was the one who invited Senga to catch beetles because it was a night activity, and also helped him a lot during the sports festival. So this time Senga wanted to do something to repay Yutaka. The two of them immediately fell silent as they heard heavy footsteps coming towards them. Sugimi panicked, crying that the spirit in the tunnel was about to curse and destroy them. While jumping around in fear, she tripped and fell, but her mouth continued to babble about her fears. Senga quickly helped her up and carried her as he ran. As he exited the tunnel, he loudly scolded Tsumiki for silently charging at them at full speed, scaring them to death. Tsumiki calmly asked why they ran away, and Yutaka was panting because he couldn't keep up. Tsumiki explained that she did not dare to scream in the tunnel for fear of scaring them more. Yutaka said that after being separated, they discovered a lot of Ranga beetles, and Tsumiki caught quite a few for his brother. When they heard the sound of conversation, they quickly chased after them to reunite. Sugimi thanked Senga for helping her at that time, and thought to herself that perhaps he didn't just know how to calculate his own benefits. At least based on the current information she had about his nature, she felt like she knew everything about Senga, but in fact, she knew nothing about him as an individual. So she told Senga that if there was anything she could do to help, just say so. She wasn't sure what she could do, but since he had carried her out of the tunnel, she was willing to compromise. Senga excitedly asked if they could be friends now, but was rejected once again. Meanwhile, Yutaka realized he arrived too early. The group decided that this year's summer activity would be to go to a festival together. It had been quite a while since he last saw everyone, although he still had the chance to see Sumiki from time to time. When Sumiki appeared, Yutaka was stunned speechless. She smiled as always, saying that the two of them were the first to arrive. Sumiki also complimented Yutaka's beautiful yukata, but she was confused when trying to combine the words yukata and Yutaka into the same sentence. Yutaka also really wanted to praise her, even thought it in his head, but what came out were jumbled sounds that didn't form a sentence. Sumiki turned around happily and said that this was not strange because she was very excited for this festival. So she asked Itsuki to help her put on her yukata. Yutaka wished he could respond normally, but as always, he was being overly cautious. Right after that, the whole group of friends also arrived one after another. Mirei and Sumiki were very excited about the fireworks display, so they were both immediately eager to find the best place to watch the fireworks. Yutaka noticed that Sumiki carefully drew another map by hand. Other friends feel more secure knowing that they have two people guiding them. So the whole group invited each other to visit the fair booths. Sumiki wanted to buy a big candy apple, but her friend kindly reminded her that this was her first time going to a festival. So she needed to know that big candy apples were difficult to eat. However, Sumiki's strong bite on the apple caused damage immediately. Mirei chose strawberries and immediately radiated cuteness. Afterwards, the group tries a fish-catching game, but only Kitu and Yutaka are really good at it. Sumiki also wanted to try and ask Yutaka for a tip. Yutaka showed off his talent, but at that moment his paper was torn, making him blush in embarrassment. Sumiki laughed teasingly because he tore the paper, and Yutaka reasoned that it was all because she was looking at him intently that she was so flustered. Kitu told Matsuiki to be quiet, although he actually said nothing, clearly showing his jealousy. The group then sat down to eat and drink while Sumiki and Yutaka went out to buy drinks. Sumiki said that today's atmosphere reminded her of the time the group worked part-time at Konami. In the bustling atmosphere preparing to watch the fireworks, Sumiki suddenly told Yutaka to wait a bit because she was starting to feel a bit nervous. Yutaka asked if this was her first time watching fireworks, and Sumiki nodded, saying that this was her first time watching them live before she only heard the sound of fireworks. When she was young, she once heard a strange explosion and asked her mother to find out it was fireworks. When she heard her mother explain that they were flowers blooming in the sky, she was so moved that she burst into tears. Only when she entered high school did she have the opportunity to go to more places. And today they have a beautiful view, have everything they need, and also watch fireworks with their friends. Made her feel very excited. She was also careful to bring super soundproof earplugs because the fireworks were very loud. Yutaka also admitted that sometimes even he was startled by the explosion. Sumiki was surprised to learn that fireworks can startle people, so she was even more determined to use earplugs. However, while holding them, she was pushed by some mischievous children, causing the earplugs to fall out of her hand. Yutaka remembered Sumiki's excitement, and without hesitation, immediately rushed into the water to retrieve it for her. Meanwhile, at the group of friends, Matsuiki felt a bad omen. When people asked if he had telepathic abilities, Matsuiki replied that it was not his Zenjin ability. He found it strange that Sumiki and Yutaka had been gone for so long without coming back. Didn't even text or call anything. The group was worried about what was going on, but reassured themselves that since it was Sumiki, it would probably be okay. However, this made Matsuki even more worried, because if it were those two people, it would be difficult to predict what would happen. I just hope they don't cause anything big. Elsewhere, Yutaka is hugging Sumiki and wondering why things turned out like this. Under the bridge on a summer festival night, a mother bowed her head and apologized profusely for her children's mischief. However, Yutaka hastily explained that he just jumped down himself, and Sumiki said that she tripped because she was wearing gaeta wooden clogs. They were both soaked, so the other mother offered to help dry them immediately with hot breath, inevitably spreading some bacteria. Yutaka thought that this time he really caused big trouble because when he was about to fall into the river, Sumiki tried to save him, but as a result, they both fell into the water. Yutaka apologized because Sumiki did her hair beautifully, wore her yukata carefully, and prepared everything for today's ceremony. But Sumiki just laughed and said that he was just trying to save her earplugs. She also asked Yutaka to help repair her yukata. They found a quiet place, and Yutaka started helping her adjust her clothes. Tsumiki gently told her that there was no need to turn away because she was still wearing a shirt underneath. However, Yutaka replied that it was much easier to wear without having to look definitely easier. He wondered how Tsumiki could be so calm in this situation. In the end, he decided that he should just pretend he was helping his sister change. Yutaka realized that he just needed to focus and help her dress quickly so that Tsumiki's first fireworks display would be perfect. So he hastily adjusted her yukata. When finished, Tsumiki thanked him, and the two decided to go back. It was almost 8 p.m., and Yutaka was worried that they wouldn't be able to make it to the fireworks in time. He blamed himself for taking so long. If he could have dressed her faster if he hadn't fallen into the water in the first place. Tsumiki had been so excited about this evening, but now they might miss it. But Tsumiki quickly brought Yutaka back, saying she wanted to watch the fireworks with everyone. She urgently told Yutaka to jump on her back. Yutaka didn't quite understand but still climbed on top of her. Tsumiki said that they would definitely make it in time. Tsumiki took a deep breath and jumped up, rushing forward.